Okay. So let's talk about the next one, which is dedicated host. So third one is our dedicated. Okay. So did you get the part when which dedicated instance part? How dedicated
Sorry.
instance? Okay. How we deployed dedicated instance? Did you get that part?
Yeah, we did demonstrate with virtualization, right?
Right. So
Yes.
in that you get the hardware for your own use only. Nobody else will use from that. So just like dedicated instant tenancy, and
Yes.
this one too. Let me copy it. So in dedicated host 2, we get the hardware and we can create multiple virtual machines here. And only I will be able to access those virtual machines. Okay. So this time
Okay.
the main difference between the dedicated instance tenancy and dedicated host instance is that here you get the access of this hypervisor. So if you have the access of hypervisor, you can create however machines you want. If you want to
Okay.
create 10 machines, you can create 10 machines. If you want to only deploy single machine, you can do that too. But in case of dedicated instance, you only had access on a virtual machine. You didn't have the access of that hypervisor. So the main difference between dedicated host and dedicated instance is this one only. In this case, you get the access of hypervisor, and in dedicated instance case, we only get the access of that particular virtual machines which was deployed on a dedicated hardware.
Okay.
So if we write some benefits here, benefit main benefit of this is here you get hypervisor level access. Okay,
Yeah.
so you will get the hypervisor access level. You can create how n number of machines, or you can either create a single machine. So
Okay.
and create machines, virtual machines. That hardware by using the hypervisors. So it's totally up to you how many machines you want to create on that particular single hardware. But there are some drawbacks here too. If we talk about drawbacks, in that case, this type of instances are most expensive instances out of all these purchasing options. Most expensive. And billing is your on per minute basis, not sorry, per hour basis. Okay. Billing is done on hourly basis, and the prices of these instances are also fixed. Okay. Then the next one is
Okay.
our last type of instances, which are spot instances. So last type of purchasing option is our spot instance. So in case of spot instances, what you do, you have to bid for that particular instance in an auction if you want to use it. Okay. You actually have to do bidding here if you want that particular, if you want to purchase that particular instance. Okay. So let's write the benefits first. They are the cheapest. Instances to just a minute.
Okay.
Okay. So these are our cheapest instances. Here you can save up to 90% compared to demand. On demand instance. On demand instance is charged 10 rupees per hour. So in that case, this will only be charged you for 1 rupee for an hour. Okay. So you can get up to 90% off here. Yeah. Are you asking something?
It's charged hourly.
No. This one, in this case, we get charged on per minute basis. Billing is
Okay.
done on per minute basis.
Oh, okay.
And you don't have to pay any upfront cost. The billing will be added to your bill at the end of the month. No upfront cost. But if someone is selling you the same thing which you are getting for 100 rupees or $100, and he's selling you in just $10, so there must be something wrong with that, either that person or either that item, right? So there are
Okay.
drawbacks here too. There is no particular time limit of that instance. Okay, how much hour you can use it. By default, they tells us that you can use a spot instance for 4 hours. Okay, but it's up to AWS if they want that particular instance back after you deployed and used it for 10 minutes, they can get it back.
Okay.
No particular time limit here. Yeah. And if you want to purchase this instance, if you want to purchase this instance, then you have to bid in an auction. So there are some drawbacks too, because let's say we have an instance which is charged $100 for an hour on demand basis. On demand pricing is demand is this $100 for an hour. But when you go and you want to purchase it via spot instance basis, in that case, let's say there are 3 users who want to purchase it. I have Joseph there, and Joseph bid, let's say $10 for this instance. Okay, an hour pricing for an hour. Similarly, SRK is there, he bid $11 for an hour. and they will not be able to see how much the other person has bid.
Okay.
Just have to bid on their own. They will not be able to see the bidding of other persons. And
Mm.
another one was Lucky, and he bid $13 for an hour. So in this case, first lucky user will be able to get this instance and work on it.
Mm.
Okay, and maximum time limit is or 4 hours. But
1 hour.
no, this one is 4 hours.
Okay.
Okay. So let's say when lucky user was using this particular instance, he used it for an half an hour. Okay, and then another user came, and let's say an user came and he wants to purchase this particular instance on the on demand pricing. He is willing to pay the on demand pricing for this instance. So he is willing,
$100.
right? So he is willing to pay $100 for that particular instance. So to whom AWS will provide that instance?
To Shan.
Shan, obviously, because if they provide it to Shan user, then there are more profits in comparison to lucky user. There they are only
Mm.
getting $13. Here they are getting same $100 for an hour. So
Mm.
what they'll do? They'll break the connection of lucky user, whatever he was working on. It will be stuck in mid, and they will provide Shan user the access of this instance.
Okay.
That's why there are no particular time limits in this type of instances. So AWS
So
tells you, yeah.
so what if Lucky hasn't done is not done with his job?
Hmm?
What if Lucky hasn't finished his work?
Then
They
the
just
work will be stuck. The storage will be there, but he'll have to start the deployment, and if something else he was doing, he have to start that work again. The data
oh,
will not be lost, but he will have to, let's say, if there was some file which was open and he was changing some content in that file, and that file was not
mm,
saved, in that case, that file will be gone.
oh, they will not even notify him.
Nope.
Mm,
Okay. So that's why they always already tells us if you are using this type of instances, there may come there may be some scenarios in which they will take the instance back. Not always,
mm,
but there are some cases.
okay.
So yeah, these four types of purchasing options are here to use it. Then next one. Okay, so AMI is done. Types of instance is done. Purchasing option is also done.
Mm,
Next comes our placement groups and availability zone. So in availability zone, we have already seen they have created multiple subnets, and we can use those subnets to deploy our particular instance in that particular zone. Just a minute. Sorry. So yeah, next is our placement group, and in placement group we have three types. So let's talk about those. Okay, first one is placement groups. Okay. And the types in this are, first one is a cluster placement group. Okay. Second one is our partition, and third one is our spread placement group.
Okay.
And paste, paste, paste. So let's go to AWS and try to deploy an instance. E3WYSH. Just a minute. $9,920. AC2 service.
Mhm.
So launch an instance. So first select the AMI Amazon Linux, then type is t2.micro. Then if I'm deploying a single instance, so in that case, I can select in which availability zone I want to deploy via subnet. Okay.
Okay.
But if I'm deploying multiple instances, let's say I want to deploy 2 instances or 3 instances here. In that case, if I select availability zone 1A, then they will deploy all those instances in 1A. If I select availability zone 1B, all will be deployed in 1B, 1C, and that. If I leave it to no preference, then it will use the placement group. So
Okay.
if we scroll down, and here it is, placement group, and we have to add instances to placement group, and we can create a new placement group here. So placement group strategy, we have 3 types: cluster, partition, and spread.
Okay.
What happens in all these 3? So first of all, in case of cluster partition, cluster placement group, what happens? Then all the instances will be deployed in the single availability zone.
Mhm.
Let's say this one is my Mumbai region, and in Mumbai region I have 3 availability zones: 1, 2, 3. Then Mumbai and AZ1, Z2, AZ3. East. So yeah. So first of all, let's talk about our cluster placement group.
Mhm.
So what happens in cluster placement group? If I want to deploy multiple instances, all the instances will be deployed inside a single availability zone, and AWS will try to deploy all the instances in a single rack. In our data centers, there are multiple racks at the backend. So the AWS will try to deploy all those instances inside a single rack. So what will be the benefit of doing this? Let's say I want to deploy 3 instances. All those 3 instances are deployed in the same rack. So if they want to communicate with each other, that will be very fast. The latency between those 3 instances will be low, so the speed would be fast. Okay,
Yeah.
this is the we can say benefit. What about the drawback? There was a switch on this to supply all the connection and all that this rack, and by some unforeseen circumstances it got short circuited, so that whole rack will be down and your whole setup will be down in an instance in worst case. Okay. Cluster instances will be deployed in a single AZ. Instances will be deployed and maximum number of instances you can deploy here is 7. In a single cluster group you can deploy 7 instances. Okay. Then next one is our partition placement group. So in partition placement group, again the instances will be deployed in a single availability zone. Let me add one more thing here. Single availability zone and rack. GERACK. So in single availability zone and in single rack. In case of partition placement group, instances will be deployed in a single zone, no doubt, but they will be deployed in multiple racks. So in that case, what will happen? The latency is still a little bit low. Okay, and we also have insurance like this. Let's say this rack goes down, but we still have the other one. My whole setup will not go down at the same time. So we can use partition placement group in that case. And third one is, okay, before that, let me write it here. In one zone, but in multiple racks. One zone, but in multiple racks. In case of partition placement group. And finally, we have a spread placement group. In spread placement group, what happens? It will deploy the instances randomly across all the zones.
Okay.
Yeah. And in this too, the number of instances is 7. And here, third one is our spread. In spread, the instances will be deployed randomly. Instances will be deployed randomly across all zones, availability zones. Okay, and the maximum number of instances here would be 7 here, 7 here,
7.
So that means total number of instances would be 21 in a spread placement group. So mainly why we are using this placement group option, because if there is some query between those two particular systems, if there is some communication between those systems and if they are near to each other, they will be able to use communicate fast between them. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So and next comes is our machine configurations. So for that, let's go to the AWS. Okay. Another option is capacity reservation. So if you are using a reserved instance, you can use the capacity reservation option from there. Okay. So for now, let's leave it. Next one is our domain join directory. So if you are using the directory service of AWS, just like Active Directory, so you can attach it to this particular instance. And if you want to attach your IAM role here, you can also do that. You just have to select that role and it will be attached to that particular instance. Then next comes shutdown behavior. So when you are shutting down the system, what should happen? Should it stop the instance or should it terminate the instance? So in case of stop, what happens? Uh, it is paused for that particular time frame. Okay. And when you want to start it again, you can start and use it again. Just like, let's say you are playing a game and you resume, pause that game, and after some time you can resume it again.
Okay.
Right. Just like that, if you are stopping that instance, you can start it again and use that same instance, same storage, same configuration all over again. But in case of terminate, the instance will be deleted, and if you have selected that the storage should be deleted too, then that will be gone too. Okay. Then if you want to add hibernation option as an additional stop behavior, you can take this one. Okay. And if you don't need it, just leave it as it is. Next is enable termination protection. So when you are going to terminate that instance, when you are trying to delete that instance, if this option is enabled here, then first you'll have to disable this option. Only then you will be able to terminate the instance. Okay. So let's take this protect against accidental termination. Then next is our monitoring. So basically it is asking for us to enable the detailed monitoring option. By default, what AWS do, let me write it here. So by default, monitoring. AWS provides us two types of monitoring. First one, which is our basic monitoring. In basic monitoring, it does the monitoring of the resources in every 5 minutes by default. And other option is to enable the detailed monitoring. In that case, by default, the time limit, the time frame, time interval is 1 minute. And in some cases, you can change it to even less than a minute. You can do the monitoring in every 10 seconds or every 30 seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can enable the detailed monitoring option here. Then next is a tenancy option where we can select either shared instance or dedicated host and dedicated instance. Okay. Next is our credit specification. So the T2 instance, the T2 class are bustable instances. they can bust their performance for a certain period of time and up to a limit. Okay, let's say the copy speed in my particular instance is coming like 20 MB per second, but it needs some more speed. So in that case, it can increase that speed, but up to a certain limit. Okay. And it increases those particular limit, or you can say it surpass those limit by using the credits which we get by running that instance. Okay, so by default, let's say, let me change it to so yeah, let's say I have an instance and I ran that instance for a day times. Okay, I ran it day. And for that time period, I got 1,000 credits. And he says that he can increase the performance of that particular instance by using 100 credits every hour.
Mm.
So if I have not selected the unlimited option in credit specification, so what will happen?
Mm.
It will increase the capacity of this particular instance for up to 10 hours, or you can say for up to the until the credits finish.
1,000.
Uh,
Mm.
Hello.
So you get credits. Amazon gives out credit. Gives out credit for usage this in.
Yeah, for using that instance on only for that instance. You cannot use the credits provided for that instance in any other instance.
Mm.
So you can increase the capacity of your instance for a certain period of time until the all the credits are consumed there.
Mm.
But if you have selected this unlimited option, in that case, even after the credits are being consumed, all the credits are gone, it will still increase the capacity of the instance whenever you want. So for that, you have to pay some extra pricing. So it is showing you, if you are selecting this option, additional charges may apply. Not necessarily, but it may apply. So for now, untick this. If I want to connect a file system, which is a network attached storage here, I can do that. We'll talk about that later. And finally, in advanced detail, I can write my script, which I want to run on my system. So let's say I want to configure Apache web server here. So I'm gonna write a script hash exclamation sign slash bin bash yum install httpd -y. So first of all, install the Apache package, then system ctl start httpd, start the httpd service, and enable the httpd service. And finally, I'm gonna echo some content. Welcome to AWS machine from Joseph and SR. Redirect the content to where www.html, and in that we have a file index.html. Okay, so when my instance will be started, when it comes to running, these commands will be ran on that system, and I'll be able to check the content via just going to the browser and opening that particular IP address. Okay. So for now, let's go to the next step, which is our storage. So in case in storage, they are providing us 8 GB of EBS volume, 8 GB of SSDs. Okay, for this particular Linux instance. If I deploy a Windows instance, it will show me around 30 GB. Okay, and in free tier, they provide us 30 GB of EBS general purpose or magnetic storage. So if I use more than that, then a bill will be generated for me. There are multiple types of storage here, and some of them are not shown here. So we'll discuss about storage in another class. For now, if you see here, delete on termination. So if this option is tick here, and when you terminate the instance, this volume will get deleted on its own. Okay, if this is ticked right. If I untick this option, and then after creating, if I terminate the instance, this volume will not be deleted. I have to delete it by going to that particular volume section and then delete it. Okay. And finally, we have encryption. So if you want to encrypt all your data, you can select the key by which the data will be encrypted. So that particular key is provided by our AWS KMS service, key management service. There you can also create your own keys. Okay. So for now, let's leave it as not encrypted, and next. So next is our, if you want to provide some tags here, you can do that. I'm gonna provide a tag, let's say, and press. I'm gonna provide another tag.
Right?
Yeah.
Tags are just labels. You are labeling your instances so you know which one is which one.
Yes, only just for labeling, only for filtering purpose, nothing else.
Okay.
This is also tested. And to which resources you want to provide the tag, to instances you want to provide it, to volumes you want to provide it, to network interfaces you want to provide it. If you don't want to provide to any particular resource, you can just untick that. For now, let's provide those on all. Then go to the network security, in which we have security group, and security group is nothing but set of firewall rules. Okay. So what is firewall, how it works? How firewall actually works in our system?
Sorry.
Why we use firewall?
Yeah, to avoid unauthorized access to the server.
Right. Okay. So by using the firewall, we can tell the system which traffic to allow and which traffic to deny.
Yes.
Okay. So if this is my laptop and there are some services which are trying to connect to this laptop, okay, let's say HTTP is there, SSH is there, and NFS is there. Okay. So they will only be able to connect to my laptop if the firewall allows them to connect it. If the firewall has rules written like HTTP is allowed here, or SSH is allowed here, or their port number is allowed. Okay.
Yeah.
So mainly there are two types of traffic in firewall. One is when the traffic is going outside from your system. That would be called outbound traffic. And by default, all the rules for outbound traffic is allowed. any service can go from inside your system to the internet. And the rules you put on traffic, that is called inbound traffic, which is coming from the outside internet. So yeah. If I've defined that HTTP rule is allowed for inbound, then HTTP can connect to my system. If I said that SSH is also allowed, SSH will be able to connect also. NFS, if a request for NFS comes here, their service is not allowed, its port is also not allowed, he will not be able to connect it. Okay. So
Yes.
these are just firewall rules. They change the name to security group. You can create your own new security group, or you can select an existing one. So for now, let's create a new. And by default, if I'm deploying an Linux instance, SSH will be allowed. And if I'm deploying a Windows instance, then RDP would be allowed.
IDP.
RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol.
Okay.
If you want to add some extra rules, you can just click on Add Rule. Select the rule you want to allow here. If you want to allow all traffic, you can select this. If you only want to allow HTTP, select that. Port range will be selected by default.
Okay.
Then from which source you want to allow it. Either you can provide custom IP, or you can select anywhere. In anywhere case, from all over the globe, request can come to my server. And finally is my IP. So from only my IP, I would be able to access my server. Otherwise, I would not be able to access it. So for now, let's select anywhere and review. And when we launch an instance, you have to select and key pair. Without key pair, you would not be able to deploy an instance. So I think we talked about SSH key pairs, right?
Yes.
So here you can create a new key pair, just provide the name and then download that key pair, or you can use the existing one. So all the key pair are in .pam extension. You just have to select that key pair and launch instance. Go to view instances. So the number of instances I selected was 3. So they have deployed 3 instances with the same configuration. And if we select any one of this, then we can check the details here. The instance ID is here, public IP address is also here, private IP is also here. If we go to the bottom, then we can see the platform which we are using. If we want to check the security groups and firewall rules and all that, we can check it here. Inbound rules, 80 is allowed, 22 is also allowed from anywhere. In networking, IP address is also shown again. In case of storage, you can check the volume type, volume size. You can you are also able to check it. Whenever your instance is deployed, there are 2 types of status check there. Okay. So if we check here status check, it says initializing, and in status check tab we have 2. First one is system status check. Second one is instance status check. So in case of system status check, it checks the hardware health, or you can say the hypervisor health at the back end of the AWS. If there are some issues in the hypervisor configuration while deploying this particular instance, that check would be failed. And if there are some errors, if there are some issues with my system's configuration, like I've made some changes in etcf step, but those entries were wrong. So when I reboot my instance will not be able to start. Okay. And next one is monitoring section, where we can see all the matrices they allow us. They provide us, like CPU utilization will be shown here, and network input, network output. So yeah, for now they haven't received any data yet. Network in is here, network out, network packet in counts, packet out in counts, disk read operation, write operations, CPU credit usage, CPU credit balance. Okay. So for now, let's go to the details. Select instance details, copy the public IP, and paste enter. Then will be shown. So all of the instances will have the same content. Let's open another one. Okay. So if you want to change some settings, you can go to actions and change it from here, and change instance settings, networking, security, in which you can assign my IAM rules and all that. If you want to launch more instances like this, you can go to images and launch instance, or if you want to create your own AMI, you can use create an image option. For monitoring, you can enable detailed monitoring, manage alarms and all that. So any doubts till here in any option? Hello. Hello, Joe. I'm audible. Hello. Hello, Joseph. I'm audible.
Yeah.
Your voice. Hello. Yeah, Joseph. I'm audible right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
Your voice is breaking.
But and paste it. And yes, can hello. Yes, hello.
Yeah, your voice is breaking a lot. Can you repeat what were you saying?
Yes, can you? Uh, no, I was practicing on building an instance, but when I copy the public
Mm-hmm.
DNS and paste on the browser, it doesn't.
Okay, just do that. Let me send you the DNS form in the chat. Okay, you deployed your instance, or you were trying to open this DNS?
No, mine. I was
Okay.
practicing. I was practicing.
Okay. So there must be some issues with the security group. Check in the security section,
Yes.
and in that check the inbound rules, whether you have allowed port number 80 or not. Okay. What is it showing in the inbound rules? Your voice is not audible. Your your voice is breaking a lot. That's not understandable. Use the chat, Joseph, if you are able to hear me. Yeah, are you able to hear me? Check the inbound rules section in the security. What is it showing in the inbound rules? Just a minute. Let me write it to check the inbound rules under the rule number 80 or not. Okay, let's terminate the instances here and for today. Okay. Are you able to see my screen right now? Okay, try doing that later. If rises, you do 1436927. Okay, so for now, let's remove these instances. So if you want to remove these instances, you just have to select that instance go to instance state and terminate. And if you click on terminate now, it will show you an error because we have disabled enabled accidental termination. So you have to change that setting for all the instances. You have to yes. Yes.
You go check and
So let's disable the termination protection here. Go to actions, then security, not security, and instance state, instance settings, go to change termination protection, disable it, untake it, and then save. So you have to do this for all of the instances. Right now I have only done this for a single instance. So if I try to terminate that instance by going to instance state and terminate, so successfully terminated.
okay.
And we have to do the same thing for the other two instances. So instance setting, change termination, and save. This one too. Actions, instance setting, change termination, disable, and save. So if we select both of these, instance state and terminate. So all of these instances are being shutting down and they will terminate after some time. Okay.
All right.
Okay, so this was our just EC2 basic. If I want to just deploy an instance, if we want to connect that instance, we have an option here, connect. We can connect via that option, or we can just take SSH via our Linux machine. Okay, so we'll get on that part, connecting part on Monday. Okay, so if you have any issues in these, try to practice on the particular topics. And if you have any of the issues, then we'll discuss all those in Monday's session. Okay. So let me save it then. Okay. Teams. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So I have to add the EC2. Okay. Okay, then Joseph, see you on Monday. Let's finish today here.
How important is shell scripting?
Pardon, can you repeat it? Hello. Hello, Joseph, what were you saying? Your voice is not audible at all. send the message in the chat section. I'll be able to see that. What? Okay. Okay, same to you.